I have been coaching Worlds teams since 2008. And recently, the discussion of the limited division has been thrust into the spotlight. In this episode, we are going to be diving into my thoughts on the limited division, having competed in it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Cheer Biz Podcast. Today, we are joining the limited division discussion at the USASF World Championships. Now, before we get into the episode, please make sure you've joined Cheer Gym Owners on Facebook and All-Star Cheer Coaches and Owners. We have great discussions going on in those groups, generally more business-oriented, but we have some awesome discussions just about cheer in general. And if you've ever wanted to learn directly from me or my team, head on over to nextgenowners.com and check out our live events, our Cheer Biz Accelerators or Summer Conference, or how to join the Academy. Now, let's get into the episode. So if you listen to my good friend Jason Larkin's podcast, he had on Catherine Whedon to discuss a variety of things, but primarily the limited division at the USASF World Championships. Now, Kat and I have known each other for many years. She is a force in the all-star cheerleading industry. We have only met in person a few times and generally just at competitions, but Kat and I started to get to know each other a little bit better through this very specific discussion. So I have had competitive Worlds teams, again, since 2008 was the first year I started coaching a Worlds team. And I was just an assistant coach. And then it was 2008, 2009, that season that I was coaching a Worlds team. And that was the year I deployed to Iraq. So I did not go to Worlds with my team. And then I was lucky enough to go to Worlds with the next year's team when I returned from Iraq. So that was like literally the very first couple days home was getting to go to Worlds with that team. And that was my first year attending the cheerleading Worlds. So that was 2009, 2010 was the first year I attended Worlds. And I have been taking teams to Worlds ever since. And my gym has competed in quite literally almost every division. This was actually a question on our ODT cheer trivia we did at our parent mixer last week. And it was, how many divisions has ODT competed in, or what divisions has ODT competed at the USASF Cheerleading Worlds? And the answer is we've competed in large all girl. We've competed in small all girl. We've competed in medium co-ed. Small co-ed, medium co-ed, and large co-ed. We've competed in large open co-ed, small open co-ed, extra small co-ed limited, and small co-ed limited. And now we're back in the medium co-ed division. So we have competed in 9 divisions at the Cheerleading Worlds, which I think is the record. I actually think we take first place in a single team competing in different divisions. So Dream has competed in all of those divisions throughout its existence. We've only ever had one Worlds team, so we've bounced around based off of the athletes that we have. It's a little bit of pride for me that we've competed in all of those different divisions, but we've spent the last few years in the limited division. And this is actually the first year that we are not in the limited division and we're back in a non-limited division with medium co-ed. And I am very, very happy to be there. And I'll go into some of the reasons why I'm happy to be there and why I'm happy to not be in limited anymore. I'll dive into all of those different things for you. But we're going to talk about the limited division. And there's really 3 different questions. There's 3 different kind of schools of thought of, should the division exist? So there's a school of thought that the division should not exist. There's a school of thought that the division is perfect and nothing needs to change and it's exactly right where it needs to be. And there's a school of thought of, should it have additional protections? Do we need to go a little bit further? And if you haven't listened to Jason's episode, they dive into this really well, but I'll give you a little bit of history because I was around for all of it. So it initially, when the limited division was created, it really started, the discussion started with the extra small division. And when extra small was created, there was some rules around competing extra small. You couldn't have additional Worlds teams to compete in the extra small division. You had to be basically gym with only one Worlds team to compete extra small. And it felt like when it was originally created, it was felt like it was created to give smaller programs like D2 style programs the opportunity to be competitive at Worlds, teams that couldn't necessarily fill large Worlds teams. Now, ironically, we were a D2 gym at that time with less than 100 athletes, and we were competing in large co-ed. So kind of funny, we were literally on the polar opposite side of the spectrum, competing in the large co-ed division. So 38-ish athletes and less than 100 kids in the gym. So we were very top heavy. The majority of our athletes were on our level 4 and level 6 teams, which we've consistently been kind of in there anyways over the past years. We tend to be a higher level gym, although we have levels 1 through 6, but we've always had a medium 4 and then a variety in terms of our level 6 program, whether it's large or small or extra small. We've kind of bounced around. That was where it originally started, was extra small, and it was limited to, you couldn't have more than one Worlds team, and it was like one gym, and there was a bunch of kind of complexities around it. And I remember when that first happened, the large gyms, the big franchise gyms, I remember Cheer Extreme was a very vocal voice against this, and how, it wasn't a real world champion, and if you wanted to be a world champion, you had to go against the best of the best, and that wasn't going against the best of the best because it restricted the best of the best from it. And I remember thinking, honestly, I'm like, do you guys need one more globe? Like, you already are winning. The big gyms are winning everything. Like, if you look at the historical champions, it's Top Gun, it's Cheer Athletics, it's Cheer Extreme, it's California All-Stars. Then there's some other people that, occasionally win in there. And so it was kind of like, it'd be cool for some of the smaller gyms to get their day in the spotlight. Those gyms, I'm not saying they don't win for good reason. They're amazing. I love watching them. They have incredibly talented athletes. They have amazing coaches. They're the deal. They are really, really good, and they absolutely deserve to win many, many, many times over. But can I also see the perspective of like, well, but you're excluding the best. So did you really win a world championship? I mean, yeah, I can see that argument. Does it dilute their world championship? No, I don't think so. But I mean, this is just me, right? I didn't weigh in too much on it. I could see both sides of the argument. I ultimately wasn't competing in that division, so I didn't have a ton to say on it. It eventually, I believe extra small was like that for 1 year, and then they opened it up to all programs to being able to have extra small divisions, and then creating the limited division. And then limited only was there was only extra small limited. There was no other division other than extra small. So it was extra small limited, and there was a co-ed and an all-girl division. And then they added extra small non-limited for the standard divisions. And then we saw that shift a little bit. And then there was the addition of extra small co-ed limited, but all girl was just small all girl, or they were combined. There was no separation. They just competed against one another. And then they added a small and an extra small division for all girls. So now there's extra small co-ed, extra small all girl, and small all girl limited. And then there's also those standard divisions. So here are some of my thoughts on this in general. And as they've progressed, they've added additional protections. I thought that the protection of you had to declare limited at the beginning of the season was a really, really good one, because there was a number of teams that shifted very last minute into the limited division a few years ago. They had competed not limited all season, and then basically they kind of saw what the bids looked like, and they were like, we have a better shot in that division, and we only have one Worlds team, so we're going to go limited. And actually, I think I've known gyms that have mid-season been like, hey, this team, we've had 2 Worlds teams all year. This team doesn't look like they're going to get a full paid Worlds bid, so we're just going to not take that team to Worlds, and we're going to go limited with this team that could win. And so there were programs that have done that. So we've seen a lot of kind of weirdness with the limited division. And I am much more in the camp of building additional protections for it. I think requiring the limited declaration at the beginning of the season was a really good step in protecting the division and making the division have that integrity of like, hey, look, you need to decide if you're going limited at the beginning of the year. But then there's the complexity of like, do franchise gyms count if they have different EINs and, employment identification numbers, and if they have different owners technically, but they just are of a franchise, can they compete limited? How does that work? And so there's been people try to find workarounds. One of the great things about the cheer industry is we are always looking for the gray area because that's what we're taught to do with rules on the score sheet. And so the same thing's going to apply with things like this. People are going to look for gray areas to put their teams in the best position to be highly competitive. I'm not going to weigh in specifically on like teams in general. I will give you my personal opinion on what I think the limited division should exist for. And I think that's my personal opinion having been in the division. So should the limited division not exist? I absolutely think it should exist. So I'm just going to wipe that one away. I don't think that the existence of the limited division is a bad thing per se for the industry. In fact, overall, I think it is good for the industry because it allows gyms that maybe are smaller or up and coming the ability to compete in a division where they are not going up against programs that have kids flying from across the country to be on them. I don't know that there are many, there's a few limited teams that have that much pull where kids are coming from all over to try and be on them. Like I said, there are a few, but that's more recent as limited teams have gained more notoriety, which I also think is great. It allows these gyms that maybe were overlooked to get some notoriety for being in the top 3, for being a world champion. Maine All-Stars Glory is a great example of that. You know, I don't know that they were super well known 4 years ago, but they are much more well known now because of their success at World. Famous superstars. I don't know that they would be well known really within the cheer world, but because of the limited division, they are now well known. Louisiana Cheer Force, I think, is a pretty well-known entity. Aqua, I think, was a pretty well-known entity. Connect is actually a large program. They're from the Pacific Northwest. They placed in the top 3 in the all-girl division twice now, and they've gained a lot of notoriety for that. And I think that they're a really amazing team and they're able to separate themselves a little bit further in the limited division. I think they would make finals in the standard division, but I don't know that they'd podium or I don't know. It would be harder is really what I'm saying. I think they're a really talented team. That's not meant to say anything about them. And really about all of those teams. It is harder to break into those top 3. So I think ultimately the division should exist. Do I think the division is good as it is? No, I don't. I think the division does need some additional protections. I am a little bit more on Kat's side of, I think we need to look at why the division was created and why does the division exist? If the division exists to allow programs that are smaller the opportunity to field a competitive worlds team that has the ability, that these are talented kids, that has the ability to compete and be in competition for a podium so they can build up that program, because it does help to win. We exist in an industry where the most talented kids oftentimes leave gyms to go to the next best thing. If you want to help those gyms continue to be able to host those teams, then they've got to have a stab at winning. Otherwise, those kids, like, what is their incentive to stay? Why not just shop yourself around to the top 10 programs until you find whoever's willing to take you? And this is why some of those gyms, when they have their tryout for their One Worlds team that has won Worlds numerous times, they have hundreds of kids coming to that tryout and they can place 60 and then cut 50% of them and then trickle them down to other teams and figure out kind of what the exact perfect mix is. I'm not faulting them for that, but this just allows gyms the ability to be like, no, we also can compete. We just compete in a different division. And if you want that, then you would have to go there, but we compete limited, and limited is a really good division. I think it needs additional protections because you can strategically place yourself in that division. Is there anything wrong with that? No, it's not against the rules. I don't fault anyone for doing it, but I think there should be some protections. And ultimately, I kind of like Kat's suggestion of, look, the D2 thing already exists. Just follow that same criteria. Just make it D2. One Worlds team and you're a D2 gym. And if you have one Worlds team and you are a D2 gym, then you would qualify. Now, are there workarounds for D2? Yes. Do I know that there are gyms that compete D2 that still have 350 all-star cheerleaders? They just keep everyone prep and novice. Yes, they do. I know there are some gyms that do that, although I think those are fewer and farther between. And I think the vast majority of your D2 gyms, having been in the D2 division for a really long time, are true D2 gyms. And I don't even think that D2 is the best determination in some ways, because there is a big discrepancy between me when I was a D2 gym last year, and we're barely D1 right now. Like, we are D1 with 140 elite kids, but we are D1. And could we have made one of our teams novice and stayed D2? Yes. But, I just said now is the year. It is time to go D1. But there was a big difference between me as a D2 gym with 119 kids and the D2 gyms that I've gone and done choreography for, or worked with through camps or things like that, that have 30 kids. Like, we are not the same. The difference between the two of us is probably as big as the difference between me and, a Cheer Athletics Plano that has 600 kids. Those differences are very real. I think that is the easiest solution without making anything too complicated. Like, I don't love the idea of, well, if you place, if you win limited, then you're out of the division. I don't love like a scoring cap. If you place in the top 3 so many times, then you've got to leave the division. Like, those things I don't really love, because I don't think they truly make sense. And just because you won one year doesn't necessarily dictate that you're going to be great the next year. We've seen that with many teams. Empires are going to ebb and flow. And even the top dogs right now, something will change at some point in time. I don't know when. Like, at the moment, TGLC is kind of the reigning champion, but there was some years where they weren't. They went a few years where they weren't winning. So those things can ebb and flow. I think it just depends on the season. And in cheerleading, it's anyone's given day. And especially at Worlds, like, if you don't hit on day 2, you don't win, which was exemplified in the medium co-ed division last year, because Top Gun had been winning that division year over year, and they didn't hit on day 2, and Black Ops did, and they won. So I think that it is much better to just say D2 is a known entity in our industry. And if you're a D2 gym, then you would be in the limited division. Now, I know that I have friends like Connect, like 5-Star, who compete limited, who are like, Dan, shut your face. I hear you 100%. I hear you. And again, I'm not the arbiter of this. That's just my opinion. I think that is the easiest definer. Otherwise, I think everything else is very hard to manage, because, like I said, if just because you win one year, you may win one year and you're in the extra small division, you win, but you competed 16 kids and 13 of them were seniors. And you may not have a stable of kids coming up that are like ready to compete at that level. So then you may need a couple years to build back up to that point. So I don't think that winning is necessarily the main thing. So ultimately, if we keep it the way it is, am I mad? No, I think it's actually okay. I think it's decent where it is. I think it could use some additional protections, but ultimately I think it is in a decent spot comparatively to other ways it could have gone. So I would rather see it continue as it is now than go away completely. I don't think it going away completely is a great thing. Now, I am going to soapbox on 2 things, and I said I would get to this, why I'm excited to be in the medium division, because you would go, well, Dan, that's crazy. That division's murderous. And you're right. The division is really hard. Same reason I enjoyed being in large co-ed. 1, I like going against the best of the best. I think it's fun. I also really enjoy coaching larger teams, and I enjoy larger divisions. I think they're a lot of fun. I think you can do a lot more with choreography. So overall, I enjoy those divisions a lot, but I like those divisions. I think they're more fun. And I think that with the introduction of the extra small division, I think we shot ourselves in the foot, and we've seen a significant dwindling in both large and medium divisions in general, both large co-ed and medium co-ed and large all girl and small all girl. Those divisions used to have a lot more teams in them. And now we've seen there are way more teams in these very small divisions because people are being strategic. They're trying to stack their team. They're going, hey, if I have 16 kids, I can put 13 kids with doubles on the team and we're going to be real good. That's only 3 kids that don't double. Whereas, on my team right now with 30 kids on the mat, I'm struggling right now. My team's biggest weakness right now is our tumbling because we only have 10 kids that double consistently. If I was extra small, 10 kids that are doubling, like that's great. I'm killing the game. But on a medium co-ed team, that's not enough. Now, can we stunt the house down? Yeah, my boys can partner stunt. Let me tell you, we can stunt, but we're struggling with some tumbling. That is why you see people drift that direction because the expectations are not as high. And I don't think overall, I've talked about this many times on the podcast, I don't think that small teams are good for the industry as a whole. Like really small teams, I think are bad for the industry because they're hard to be profitable. They encourage cutting kids. Like the nice thing about my medium team is, yeah, I've got kids on it that don't spin, but they stunt the house down. They have that opportunity to compete at that higher level and develop their spinning skills. So I like that flexibility there. So that's why I like the larger divisions. And I'm really excited to be a medium co-ed. We're going to make a run at it. I know it's a really hard division. There's every single team in our division is good. Every single one. There's not a bad team in the division. And it was the same way when we were large co-ed. Every single team was good. But man, even placing up there with those really amazing teams is pretty amazing, right? If you're hanging up there with score, you beat a team or two, like it feels really, really good. That's why I like those divisions. So ultimately, do I think limited should exist? Yes, I do. I certainly hope for the division to continue to thrive. I think it ultimately was a really good thing for our industry. And I hope that we can continue to grow the division. I hope we can continue to grow Worlds and the Worlds programs, and we can continue to push athletes to that higher level. I know that there's a little bit of a challenge right now in our industry where kids are kind of capping out at like level 3 and level 4 is starting to die a little bit. I certainly hope that we continue to elevate kids and not just always hold kids back because we're trying to make the most competitive teams possible. So it's like, oh, you have a full, well, you're level 3. I think we need to continue to progress kids up through the sport so the sport continues to grow and those kids aren't held back. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. It was an absolute pleasure. I did not script this one out. It was not planned. I just kind of talked from the top of my head. So I hope you enjoyed it. And with that, we will catch you on the next episode.